Welcome to another session of Ongoing Changes. I am here with Dr. Sana, and my name is Dr. Beatriz. And together, we're going to explore something that a lot of us are not even aware of. And we seem to go from one day to the other, and then all of a sudden, we seem to collapse, like our world seems to implode and we haven't noticed any of those little signs that have either been given to us by the universe or by our own family, strangely enough. Welcome, Dr. Sana. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
So am I, trust me. You've got such a diverse background, not only from a cultural perspective, but also the fact that you have been a doctor for well over a decade. And so your wealth of knowledge comes from also experience and what you have gone through and what your journey has been like. What made you decide on, this particular topic of being a champion for it?
Well, honestly, really, like you said too, is just lived experience. I went through it myself, not knowing that it was burnout that I was experiencing and how much it was limiting me from my dreams, really. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I genuinely just want to help other women, especially those in healthcare who are going through it right now and are lost and don't know what they're experiencing and why they just feel stuck in the system that does not have their backs. So that's really the reason I'm passionate about it.
That's very so true on so many levels. Now, when you had patients come to you, were you able to see it in them but not in yourself?
So many times, yes, and not in the sense that we wouldn't define it necessarily as burnout, but like I would see it in them as chronic stress. I would call it depression. I would call it anxiety. I would call it pseudo seizures. But the underlying cause of it really is just this chronic stress that's built up to the point where the body is basically you're burnt out, like your entire immune system is burnt out. You're having now physical symptoms from it, along with emotional symptoms. But you give it a different name so often in your patients. But you may be experiencing different versions of burnout yourself and symptoms of it yourself. But as a healthcare provider, oftentimes you wouldn't call it burnout because that's just what we're taught. It's just normal. What you're feeling is high stress. You're just going to push through. Um, it's almost more. It's almost a badge of honor that you wear. Like, hey, you work 80+ hour weeks, right? Like people talk about that in residency, like it's a badge of honor. We're just to just push through it and ignore the symptoms that we're feeling, so we could be there for everybody else. That's just the nature of being a healthcare provider.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because being a healthcare provider, you'd think that you would be the first port of call, looking after yourself, doing what nurtures you and nourishes you. Whereas we seem to just push through. I mean, I don't know what it's like over there, but over here in Australia, a lot of the residents, like they'll have 12, 14-hour days and they don't do it just for one day. They'll do it for a week or 10 days.
Hmm.
And I mean, some of them are young, granted, some of them get into medicine much later. But the point is, it's like you work like a horse
100%.
with no care of, getting proper sleep, proper nutrition. It just seems to be so incongruent of what they're expecting of people
Hmm.
and what we're supposed to be delivering to our patients.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You said it best. It really is just so absolutely just incongruent. And you don't see it when you're in the thick of it because you're just that hamster in a wheel that just keeps going and going and going until you completely unplug yourself from that system, or if not completely, then go part time or start working in your own terms. You're not in the system all the time, and you're able to take a step back and actually see what's going on. Only then do you realize this isn't okay. Like, I don't have to live like this. It's not okay for me to feel constantly on edge or constantly tired or be snappy at my kids for no reason. Like this, it doesn't have to be like this. You know, I could, I want to live a life where I'm present with my children, where they're showing me an art project and I could thoroughly enjoy it without responding to a page on the side, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's things like that, and it really happens when you take a step back from being ingrained in it constantly, that you realize that it's not okay, because your environment, as we all know, affects you tremendously, and when you're surrounded by everyone feeling the same way, everyone doing the same thing, working 80-hour weeks, that's just what's normal, right? It's only when you take a step back, you realize there's another way to do life. And you're like, okay, maybe I don't want to be doing this. Maybe I don't want to be chronically stressed out or dread like, Sunday nights and, constantly feeling on edge. And so that's you have to kind of take a step to be able to actually see
Mm.
that reality.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, we start and like you would have been thrown in the deep end from the get go. And then you get married and you've got this other layer that just fits in. And then when you have kids, you've got another layer that just fits in. And you seem to be doing more and more and more and have less time for you, for sleep, to doing fun things. And everything just becomes a burden. And, you know, we tell people that go and get some fun, go and get some exercise, go do something that makes your heart sing. And then we go, "Ugh," and we just keep going, doing whatever it is that we're doing instead of us being the role models.
Mhm,
Because really, you go home and your kids wear the brunt of your tiredness, your anxiety and everything else. And they think that's okay. And we're teaching them that that's okay.
mhm.
And it's just like, you know, what was the light bulb moment that you thought, enough? I'm stopping this. It's time for me.
Yeah, I knew what I was feeling wasn't how I wanted to continue feeling. Just that again, that just constant feeling on edge, just chronic fatigue, just bone tired after my 1 week on work. And residency was just a whole ball game. I mean, it's that kind of just fatigue and tiredness was just something else. But for me, what I would say was the breaking point, if we can call it that, was when my toddler was sick and I was supposed to work that day. She was sick to the point where she was throwing up like every time, like bilious stuff then, and I had to take her to the urgent care. She was 2.5 at that time. So we needed IV fluids. I'm sitting holding her on the bed and I'm getting pages from this. So instead of them finding coverage for me and the other doctors take over my no, I had to go in with her. So I stayed in urgent care with my daughter until, like, I think it was 3 or 4, then dropped her off home with my mom. I had to go see my patient Brown and everybody. I didn't get and I still had all my notes to do. And then because it was a July bug, the next day I myself started I'm throwing up now, so I call into work. I'm like, "I can't come in. I'm throwing up." So then they're like, "Okay, yeah, you can have this day off, but you have to make it up tomorrow." And then the following day when I was supposed to go in for a long call was a Saturday. Well, that Monday I put in my resignation and I have not.
Wow.
Now this was the second job. My very initial job that I had as a hospitalist, this was when I was still in Florida, was a wonderful job. When I moved states, the job that I got here in Illinois was a very different one, and that's the one I'm talking about. But that for me was my breaking point. I'm like, I'm working so hard for a job that clearly just doesn't care about me. To them, I'm just a leader who's just meeting their staffing needs. But here I am leaving my sick daughter at home who needs me, and now I'm sick and I can't even make up my time. What am I doing? Like
It's crazy.
I don't work like this. I don't want to live like this. And that for me was the breaking point. And I was already for a while before then feeling like, okay, like I don't want to feel this way all the time. I don't want to be this snappy all the time. So I knew something. I hadn't put that label of like necessarily burnout on it because again,
Yeah.
it's just the hustle culture and it's just normal in medicine. But when I finally put in my resignation and finally left my job and started working in a outpatient position, going in just 3 days a week, and started even in that job realizing that there's another way to do medicine. Um, it was just changer, and from there, it continued to get better and better because I had time for myself, I had time to just unplug,
Yeah.
and, that was the beginning of the change for
Mm. So it's a shame we have to wait for a Mack truck to hit us before we realize. And I mean,
100%.
you were lucky because it wasn't, a scarier call that you got really ill or, something devastating happened. So it was good that it was something small, but it's terrible that it had to get to that state.
Mm.
So, being a Western doctor, did you go down the route of doing some chemical intervention to assist you to chill you out or anything?
No, I wouldn't, I can't even do caffeine. I don't like stimulants, nothing like that, like, to keep myself going, but what I would do is, I would pray, that's to me is a form of meditation. The other thing I would do just to calm myself down would be chamomile tea at times, but no, I didn't, and every now and then I would just take CBD, just CBD, not I would make sure there's no THC of any kind, so it would just be CBD, which is very safe. And I would take that just to calm myself, but I did not take any kind of medication, to calm myself or anything like that. One other thing that I was doing at that time that I continue to do now, I was running a lot more at the time. After 2 kids, it's a little bit harder to run, so I do the elliptical, but, running was a big stress reliever for me.
Yes. Well, it's a form of meditation. Anything that's a single point focus is a meditation.
Mhm.
Prayers are a single point focus. So, therefore, it is a meditation. And I'm a great believer that the words, the thoughts that we think and we speak have got particular vibrational frequencies. So, they can either raise you or lower you. Because, I mean, after all, we're just electrical.
Yeah.
Our brain sends out information through 5 millivolt repeaters to move our hands or twitch our fingers or whatever it is. And
Mm.
we're incredible. We're just energy. So, for praying it, I mean, I'm a Roman Catholic. I was born in Argentina. So, they're a huge Roman Catholic, but I'm an atheist.
Mhm.
I don't believe that humanity or a human can tell you what to do. But I'm a great believer that there is a higher, like to me, is Dios,
Mhm.
God, or whatever name you use. There
Mhm.
is definitely a higher being that we're mirror images of, really.
Mhm.
And so I would pray, but not in the sense of what the church tells us we should be doing and how we should be doing it.
Mhm.
And that also calm me. But if you don't have something that you can actually anchor back into, then it makes it very difficult. Because from an Eastern perspective, they've got their rituals, but the rituals are so that we're in touch with Source, not so that they could keep us from doing other things.
Mhm.
So that we're still in touch with our ancestors and that we're still part of something that we can't see, something that is more 5D.
Mhm.
And therefore, I think for me, it helps to keep that balance and focus and grounding. From a Chinese perspective, they're all very much like each of the energies have got particular spirits. And it's about moving, it's about being in tune with nature, about going with the cycles that we're taught from a very young age not to do. Sit
Mhm.
there. We've got a class. Don't disturb the others. Do your
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
Don't think.
Mhm.
And therefore, what we're trying to do as adults is break that program so that we can be happy again and be like kids.
That's so true. That is so true. Yeah, I mean, kids naturally just have that where they wanna be outside, they enjoy being in nature, and they have this beautiful imagination, that we now have to actually sit and try to try to tap into that inside of ourselves, but they have that naturally, and I couldn't agree more I think our school systems in general, probably all over the world, need to do a better job at just letting kids flourish and just let kids be kids as for as long as possible. So we don't have to do damage control later in life. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. But I mean, once we break out of that mold, they can start seeing how to be in the world and they too can change,
Mhm.
which is absolutely wonderful. There's nothing nicer than sitting in a park, it may sound creepy, but watching kids play, having so much fun, doing it the most incredible things like grabbing a twig, putting some tan bark on it, and saying, "Oh, look at my ice cream." And you think,
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely a joy of even just being a parent to little kids. And, I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and especially 5-year-old, it's just so fun to just see the things that he comes up with, and, but then again, going back to just being more of a pleasant parent, I mean, that's one of the things I feel so honored that I am able to now enjoy. If when I was in my burnout phase, I was just she would show me these things and she was smaller then and just be like, "Yeah, okay, okay, well, mommy has to get back to this. Like, okay, well, I have to get back to this." Like, I couldn't even be fully present the way I wanted to, but that's the that's one of the things I'm very proud of myself that now being on the other side of it, I can be more present for my kids and my family. And for so many of my clients and what I see in this space for women in healthcare, that's the number one thing that they want is their desire is to be more present with their kids and their.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I used to find it difficult when I worked full time. I mean, I was working full time, I was teaching, I had teenage kids, and there was just so much happening in my brain. I had to do this and this and this and this.
Mhm,
So I started prioritizing. I would say, okay, these are the top four things that I have to get done. I have a 2 hour block. So I would tell my brain, I'd make contracts with my brain that we're going to do this for this period of time, this for this period of time. And I would actually set an alarm so that I
mhm,
could have a single point focus and not have my mind wander everywhere else except where I wanted it to be.
mhm,
I mean, that was quite effective, but I had to be very strict with myself because once the time was up, I had to move on.
mm,
Because otherwise, my brain would think, you're just lying. You told me you were going to do this, and I gave you the headspace, but you're not doing it.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
almost like the two shoulder thing. No, you didn't. Yes, I did,
Right, right. Mhm,
and that worked. But I mean, my kids are older; they're in their 30s now, and I've got a 5-year old granddaughter. And, my kids say, yeah, but you were working all the time.
mhm,
And that's what they remember, you know, that I worked long hours, I wasn't home a lot. And when I was working, and it was a stressful job because I was doing engineering.
mhm,
And there were certain things that you had to do. It wasn't like we could work from home, you had to be there. So the kids would be in care for 11-hour days. So for me, it was drop off, work, pick them up, come home, do just the usual rituals.
mhm,
And it just seemed to have been the norm. It wasn't like, oh, have a mental health day. It was like, no, why didn't you finish that yesterday? You could have stayed longer. And it's like, no, I have to do a pickup. I mean, for my kids to be picked up at 6 p.m. at night, I think that's late enough when they get dropped off at 7.
yeah.
I mean, they were able to play with their kids, and I see my daughter how different it is. Like she's totally there with her daughter, and they have this amazing relationship, and she's so much fun. She's just a kid, which is wonderful.
Mhm,
Whereas I don't think we had our childhood, so now we want to be kids again. I mean, my kids think that at some stage I'll be responsible. And I think there's a difference between being responsible and being fun.
mhm,
I don't want to get old and grumpy and, you know,
mhm,
I can do all the things I didn't get to do when you
mhm.
kids were growing up.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know?
At the end of the day, kids too, they just want their parents around. It doesn't even matter what you're doing half the times. It's just they just want you around. That's it.
Mm. Oh, that's 100%.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to a client that comes to you and they haven't got the foggiest what's happening? I mean, how do you unravel all the things so that they can start noticing and seeing where their life is and where they want it to head to?
That's a great question. I think it all starts with uh, realizing where you're at, even on the spectrum of burnout. So there's different stages of burnout. There's mild, there's moderate, there's severe burnout. And it all starts with recognizing how burnt out you are. Because most of our society, believe it or not, is burnt out to some degree, right? Just and that's just the corporate culture, that's the hustle culture, whether you're in medicine or not. It's just, a lot more severe, but even people with regular 9 to 5, most people are burnt out to some degree. So I think the first thing would just be to understand what's going on with you, to understand what's going on with your body, that what you're feeling, you're not crazy, that these symptoms are there for a reason. Your body's trying to tell you something. Put a name to it. Understand that it's either anxiety, or maybe you're really depressed, or maybe it's just burnout, right? So understand what your body's trying to tell you, get in tune with your body again, and then start taking steps towards fixing that. And the reason why I say nervous system regulation work is so important because this work is really foundational, and that's really what you build everything else on, everything else. And what I mean by everything else is life that you actually want to live, not life that just you were thrown into and now you're just living because it's just your day-to-day routine and you want to get out of it and maybe just something different, but you're either tied to it because of student loans or debt or
Mm.
some other responsibility and you can't break free, but actually build an intentional life. You will not be able to build an intentional life or even be able to think about an intentional life from a place of burnout because your brain is literally in that survival mode. So your brain is not scanning for opportunities, it's constantly scanning for threat. You're picking
Mm.
up on all the negative things around you when you're in survival mode, which is why it's so important to get out of it. Start feeling like yourself again, understanding your own body again, and get into your own intuition again. And then from that regulated place, start building the life we want. Because I believe we should all be living a life that we actually want to live, not one that we either fell into or the system kind of forced us into, and now we're stuck in and don't see a way out.
Mm.
So it's a catch 22 almost, but unless you actually pull yourself out of that, you won't be able to build an intentional life of your dreams.
Yeah.
So that's
Wow.
when nervous
That
system
is so
regulation
true.
work to me is foundational.
Yeah. That's very true. I mean, the other the way that I see also the other issue is females do worse than males. It's not because of a gender thing. It's the fact that when women are a particular age, even if they've got a partner that's absolutely amazing, it's the fact that they're also menstruating, which adds an extra burden on their body, whether they like it or not. And to me, it seems to exacerbate it.
For
It's
sure.
also the fact, yeah, it's also the fact that sometimes we don't have the support and we're stuck in this mindset. Well, if I do this, my friends will say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this?"
Hmm.
Or your parents' expectations, or who's ever around you, they'll have particular expectations of you, whether you like it or not. So, do you think that for me it plays a role, but do you think it plays a role? Do you think they also have to learn things like boundaries and, you know, other kind of tools that will allow them the headspace?
Yeah, definitely. And that's all part of regulating your nervous system, right? First thing is again recognizing what's going on with you. And the second is, working on healing your system. And part of that I talk to my clients a lot about as well is one of the things that you mentioned is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries with certain situations, with certain people, with yourself, right? And what if,
Yeah.
for instance, one boundary that I think most people can do better with or set that boundary with themselves is looking at their phones first thing in the morning, right? One of the best things you can do for your nervous system is not looking at your phone for the first, ideally an hour, but that's too long. The first 30 minutes of the day, don't touch your phone. You know,
Yeah.
come to yourself, center yourself, get out of bed, do the exercise, take a
Mm.
couple of deep breaths. And if you're not going to do a gratitude journal first thing in the morning, just say 3 to 10 things out loud to yourself that you're grateful for. Have a glass of water. That's the best way to start your day. And then you can look at your phone, do whatever else you need to do. But that's one boundary you can set. I mentioned a few things there, but that's the not looking at your phone for at least 30 minutes is one boundary that I think most people can set with themselves. And that feels like it's a boring small thing, but a lot of the things that we do to nervous system regulation and rewire your nervous system look very boring and look very seemingly subtle, but it's those small little things that compound, and then you start seeing the needle move. So it is boring things like that, but yes, 100%. Boundary is one. And then again, you can do things like meditating, you can do breath work, you can do just regulating your system with your biggest nerve. You can do that. Another thing I love, just this one I really like, combines a few things, is going outside and taking a 10-minute nature walk. So you're getting your exercise in outside in nature, and don't have your phone with you for that time. Ideally, if you need to, if you're a woman, you live somewhere where you can have your phone, and just put it in your pocket and don't look at it.
Mm.
But don't just be present and just be present in nature when you're on this walk as much as possible. Um, so those are some, there's a lot more than just somatic exercises
Mm.
day to day as well, but just easy things that you can integrate into your day to day routine. Those are some of the things I do. Another one I really like, and this is a small boundary you can have with yourself, is when you're having breakfast in the morning, just have breakfast, right? Like don't be multitasking, don't be like, checking your emails and doing 50 things at the same time and scrolling on your phone and trying to do like 5 other things. Really just sit down and like enjoy your breakfast for 10 minutes. Like, really taste your food, enjoy it, present in the moment. And you can open your back patio door and birds or be somewhat present in nature while you're doing even better. You see, I talk about nature a lot because nature really is healing. The frequency of nature is truly healing for us and our frequency. So that's one of the things that you will feel an instant difference if you go outside and take a walk in nature. That's one of the things with regulating your nervous system where you instantly will feel better. Because a lot of it will take time. It'll take some weeks, sometimes even months for you to start feeling quote unquote better. But
Mm.
to do something that will instantly make your nervous system feel calm, it's just being present in nature.
Yeah, that is so true. Unfortunately, a lot of people live in apartments these days,
Hmm.
which makes it much more difficult. But, as you were saying, get out there, watch the sunrise, watch the sunset if you can, being in nature, because as you said, from a frequency perspective, so many times we go out for a walk on the beach or go and have a walk on the forest, and you just feel so good. You
Hmm.
just It's almost like you become one with nature and you didn't have to do anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's incredible. And I don't know about you, but I was taught to do things. You can't be sitting there doing nothing. Go do something.
Hmm.
There's washing to be hung out. There's, this to be done or that to be done. And so it just becomes a natural thing that we get stuck with.
Hmm.
And it makes it very difficult. So one of the ladies I knew, she couldn't even be away from her phone, otherwise she'd go into a panic attack.
Mm.
So it had to be this gradual thing, otherwise she would freeze. She just had to keep scrolling. And you
Wow.
think, how unhealthy is that? And she would have been at the time 17, 18.
Wow.
So her first panic attack was when she was a late teenager.
Mm.
She had to know what was happening, who was saying what.
Mhm.
And also the realization that people can start to understand that it doesn't matter what people say about you. They don't house you, they don't look after you, they don't love you. People are so quick at judging as opposed to sending someone some love or giving them a smile instead of saying, "Oh, is that what you're wearing today?" Or,
Mhm.
"Oh, no."
Mhm.
We have to become, again, more human and more empathic towards people. So it doesn't matter where you come from, what color is your skin, what your background is. We're all human.
Mhm.
We're all born here
Mhm.
on the planet.
Exactly. Yeah.
By, by nurturing ourselves, we're also nurturing the planet
Mhm.
and everybody else around us.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know about you, but since you're doing this journey, do you find that more people talk to you, that there is more laughter around you?
Yeah, definitely, and, you're doing not just yourself a disservice, but to everyone else around you a disservice as well if you're not living your life as your best version of you. Right? Because as your best version, your healthiest, happiest, wealthiest version is the place you want to be because that's the place where you actually can give back to others around you as well and give back to society and this world. So I think we should all aspire to be our best version, healthiest, happiest, wealthiest, right? We should all be that because that's the only place from which we can, you know, generously give back to others. And then it comes back to us, right? And it's not, and you're not giving back to others from a selfish place, like you did in an expectation for it to come back to you. But you, when you're at that place, you just want to help others, whether it's, in a monetary way or any kind of other way. But you want to help others, and you don't know how that good's going to come back to you, but that good somehow, in one shape, way, form, or another, comes back to you. So I think we should all aspire to be our highest forms, our highest version, because that's the best way to contribute to the world.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was when I didn't want anything from anybody else. Whatever I did for them, it was like, oh, I don't expect anything. Like,
Right.
I mean, I've always been like that
Mm,
because it's like, no. And they look at you weird as if to say, so what do you want? And it's like,
mm,
I don't want anything.
nothing. Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's that concept like, well, you've given me something. Shouldn't I be giving you something back? It's like, no, not at all. And a lot of people's connotation of wealth is financial.
Hmm.
They think that wealth must be money. I mean, how wealthy are you that you're healthy? That
Hmm.
you've got a couple of healthy kids and a husband.
For sure.
It's the smaller things that actually create such a huge difference to our life, which
Agreed.
people seem to forget.
Mhm,
And we come into the world with nothing because we do. We're born naked, and our parents hold us and love us. And then we leave the world in the same thing. Unless, of course, someone, decides to dress us up and do our makeup and our hair and everything else. You can't take anything with you,
mm-mm.
but people will remember you for what you did while you were here.
Exactly.
And to me, that
Very
it's
true.
not an ego legacy. It's like, I mean, the love of my children is incredible. There are so many people out there who have parents but don't talk to their parents
Mhm,
because they have nothing in common, or there was a rift, or, they had certain expectations which weren't met as children or as adults. And so
that's
there's
just so
this
heartbreaking
thing.
to hear that. It's, just being able to forgive and, you hear people say this, like, you forgive someone and you forgive for yourself, but if you truly understand what holding on to a grudge or anger does to you, you would never ever be angry or ever be in that situation ever again, right? But it's again, once again, understanding that A, we're all connected, and B, we're basically walking madness. So if you're staying angry or frustrated or pissed off at somebody, like that's the signal you're sending out, right? And that's exactly what you're going to attract more of. So the longer you stay angry at somebody or upset at a situation or, cut a relative off or a friend off, that's exactly what you're asking the universe to send you more of, right? You forgive and you move on. That doesn't mean you go back to that person who hurt you, or you want to go back to a situation that was bad for you. It just means you forgive, like wholeheartedly forgive, and then just move on. And I know it's easier said than done, and it does take work, but you understand you're doing it for you, and then you're also doing it for everyone else around you.
Yeah. So, do you want to sort of walk us through the cascade of chemicals and, endorphins and cortisol that we go through when we hold on to anger?
Yeah, so it's similar to the kind of stress that builds in your body. So I've seen people stay angry at certain people for like years. And, it's not that they're constantly feeling that emotion, but every time somebody comes up about them or their name gets brought up, it's that same wave of anger and emotions that comes up. And you're once again, body, you're putting your body into not necessarily a state of, survival, but you're putting your body into a state of anger. So you're like, once again, just you're not helping your body because your body can score. It's more than just being present, you know, um, in one instance. If you are encountering a certain emotion, certain situation, a story that happened maybe 3 years ago, you keep talking about it over and over,
Mm.
you're putting yourself back in that situation. So whether it was a situation, a person that made you angry 3 years ago, and you're still sitting here talking about it and recalling everything in detail, well, guess what? You're now reliving that event, and you talk about it again 6 months. At that moment, you're going to relive that event. 6 months again after that, you're going to relive that event. Your body's going to experience all of those same emotions. So the best way, in my opinion, is do your best to forgive and move on and not think about it, because what you focus on is what grows. So unless you want to be angry over and over and all the time, focus on anger. If you don't, you forgive, you move on, and focus on what it is that you want to create. So that is how I think about anger.
Yeah. No, it's very true. I mean, I have seen people that, as you said, talk about the same thing, and it was like as if they were still living it.
Mhm,
It's you can see the anger coming in their face and the redness and the emotions and the volume of their voice going up, and it's like their agitation, and it's like it's crazy. Like you said, we're magnets. We
mhm,
attract the same thing,
mhm.
and so we're attracting what we put
Yeah.
out.
And I do
And
wanna
it's
add,
that
so sometimes it's hard to say, like, "Hey, this person, really upsets me, like, how do I send this person love? Like, how do I move past a certain difficult situation?" The way you wanna do it is when that feeling comes up, you immediately try to shift to something that brings you joy, whether it's your dog or your cat or your kids. You start thinking about something that brings you joy and love, and then think about that person and then try to forgive them. Do your best to forgive that person that did you wrong or a situation that was hurtful. So really you have to feel the feelings, but don't sit and marinate in the feelings that are negative. So don't marinate in the feeling of feeling angry and jealous or whatever that negative emotion is. Rather shift and start thinking about your dog. And when you start feeling that love again, then think about that person and just think of forgiveness and do your best to do that. It really to just make that emotional connection. So think about something that you love and then that person that wronged you and you have to forgive them from that place. But if you marinate in the fact that they did you wrong, you're just gonna you're gonna keep stuck in that loop.
it's almost like when we're marinating other things, we become all mushy. I
Yes.
mean, what you said, it's so true. And I like the fact that you divert it so that people start replacing it by something of a high vibration, something that brings you joy,
Hmm.
as opposed to burying it.
Hmm.
Not, it's like, it's not about not thinking about it.
Hmm.
It's about changing the way that you think about it. Because when we bury things, that's when our body gets sick.
Hmm. Because it takes the same amount of energy for your brain to think of a negative thing as it does positive, right? So when negative things come up, do your best to just shift immediately to a positive thing. And the way I like to do that goes for fear and doubt and anxiety. For example, when you're starting a new position in your life, or you're thinking about maybe switching jobs, or one that's not going to burn you out as much as your current job makes. you want to think about it in the place of this, being so when something negative comes up, just shift to something positive. And the best way to do that is to start with gratitude. So when fear or doubt or anxiety or anger comes up, because your brain can't think about two things all at the same time. You can't, you literally cannot think about fear and gratitude at the same time. So when something about doubt and fear comes up, recognize it, like give it acknowledgement, like, okay, I'm getting fearful, I'm starting to feel a little anxious, and then shift immediately to something you're grateful for. And there's literally a million things around us that we can be grateful for every day. So when you start then calling out loud things that you're grateful for, you'll immediately start feeling like you'll see that you'll start to calm down. And then you're not focused so much on fear and doubt. And then you're immediately thinking about things you're grateful for, which is just again a higher vibration, a higher frequency.
Mm,
So just
that
always
makes
just try to
sense.
think of yourself as a magnet and that you want to be riding the higher frequencies as much as possible.
It's like a surfer being on a wave. They seem to
Yes,
have so much fun doing it.
exactly. Exactly. Yep.
And most of the time, like 90% of the time, whoever these people seem to be angry at, the others don't even realize. They don't care. It's like, why would you want to drink poison?
hmm And sometimes it's the situations are a little bit more difficult. It could be a certain family member that you have to, regardless of how much you don't want to associate, you still have to associate with them. It could be situations like that. And in those moments too, back to gratitude and do your best to forgive. And now again, if there's deep trauma there, or if there's, actual, for instance, PTSD, or you're dealing with someone who's narcissistic or abusive, you may need more than just things that we're talking about. You may actually need to talk to, a therapist who can work with you and, help solve that deeper issue that may be there.
Mm.
But once you resolve those deeper things, the best is really not to ruminate on and shift your energy as much as possible to something more positive for your own sake.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are completely out of our control, like when people have been sexually abused. Like there is some really deep seated stuff, and working through it is like quite incredible. I was listening to someone the other day, I can't remember their name, and I wish I could. They had gone through some horrendous things, and they went down the whole way, and they'd been sexually abused, they did drugs, and they were close to death. And they're moving forward another 5 years. They had found their center, they had found, their higher self. And it was like, okay, you have a choice. Do you want to die now or do you want to have a life?
Mhm,
And you've been called here to do, certain work and to bring light into the world. You've seen the darkness. You know how you can help others see the light as well. So choose.
mhm,
And they've gone down the path of light and they're incredible. I mean, so many
amazing.
things that they went through. And then they can see that it was almost like their learning curve so that they could be the torch for others.
Mhm,
So that, I mean, it's dreadful, but it doesn't matter what happens to you. Like Dr. Weary Dunlop also said when he was in a concentration camp, it doesn't matter what happens to you, it's how you deal with it that makes the
mhm,
difference.
mhm. 'Cause your mind is your mind, so unless you let something get to you, they can't, right? Now again, I know in some situations, it's easier said than done, but
Totally.
it's a skill, right? It's like working out, it's like going to the gym. I mean, you're not gonna have a six pack and then, after going to the gym twice, this is something that takes practice and consistency and just sticking to these things. And it's mental work. It really is mental work that you have to do constantly until it becomes habitual, and then you don't notice it so much, but then you also notice that you're a much happier, much grounded. So it is a
I
process.
mean,
All of the
I
paradox
agree.
relation stuff
Yeah.
that we're talking about, getting in alignment that we're talking about, your highest self, all of this takes time. And the reason it takes time is because it's the small, small, small habits that compound over time.
Yeah. It's that creation of the new neurological connections. I mean, when
Absolutely.
we're born, we can't walk.
Mhm. Exactly.
We can't walk because we don't have the strength. We haven't got the brain body connection. And get up, fall down, get up, fall down. And if we could apply that to our life as an adult, then we wouldn't be so hard on ourselves.
Mhm.
Because I mean, let's face it, that's one of the biggest things that we have to learn is to be gentle.
Mhm. And give ourselves grace. Right.
Yeah.
But lucky
And
for us, we do have neuroplasticity, which I know
yeah.
a few years ago we used to think, hey, like, what's done is done with your brain, and there's, neuroplasticity isn't real. You can't form new neuronal connections, but you can. And you can learn really at any age. So that's what's so great about just being human in our mind. You can rewire your mind. You can rewire your beliefs and your subconscious mind. Because the fun part is your subconscious doesn't ask any questions. It accepts whatever you feed it. So why not feed it good things? Why not, tell it good things about yourself? Like, hey, I can do this. I am empowered. I can do anything I set my mind to, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to do, why not feed your
Yeah.
subconscious mind those positive beliefs?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, as you said back in the day, it was you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And now it's like you can do anything you want. So, how do you shift someone from that belief set? Because a lot of the stuff that we do, it's through what we were taught, but also the belief system. So, how do you shift people?
So again, first thing is recognition. Is just recognize your patterns, recognizing your paradigms, which is just your beliefs that have been ingrained in you over time, over the years since you were a child. And then slowly rewiring your brain and your subconscious mind. And one of the ways to do that is repetition.
Mm.
Talking to yourself is repetition, writing, journaling, but doing it with feelings and with emotion. Because your brain believes whatever it is that you're telling it. The more emotions that you use,
Mm.
the more neuroplasticity there will be and the more rewiring of your brain it will be. But again, the other thing is going to be to stick with it and to keep doing it and to be consistent with it. That's basically what I mean. I mean, the way to rewire your brain is just repetition and doing it with feelings. And if for example, you're trying to shift your identity, say if you want to be a writer and you're trying to be a writer, really believe that you are a writer. Show up every day as your writer self. Like, what would your writer self do every single day? How does she show up for herself? What does she wear? What does she eat? How does she talk? And start showing up as that version of you, and then do that with emotion and keep repeating that. And that's the best way to start forming more and new neuronal connections to shift into that new identity. But again, you got to stick with it and keep doing it. And at the beginning, your brain will actually want to go back to your old self because it's trying to once again keep you safe. Anything new, your brain sees as a threat, even if it's something that's good for you and the logical part of your brain understands that. Your brain is still trying to keep you safe. So if you're showing up as a writer and before that you weren't, you know, you weren't really doing anything. You were just a couch potato, or you want to be comfortable, right? Your brain's gonna try to shift you back to that mode. So you almost have to
Yes.
fight against yourself. You have to almost like show up and say, "No, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this." And you keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that for weeks and
Mm.
months until you don't even notice that you're showing up for your best writer self. And now looking at the other version, you're like, I don't even know who that girl was. You look at pictures of yourself, you're like, I don't recognize myself because this is who I am now. So
It's
the first
interesting,
step is
isn't it?
first step is identifying, second is just continuing to show up as that, and repetition with emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Thank you. I mean, to me, the brain is like water because it'll find the path of least resistance. So as soon as you try to, it'll go, no, this is easier.
100%. Yeah.
It's so much easier to build muscle than to build neurological connections because we're quite happy to pump iron, but we're not as happy to do the work. Do you think that once you start changing, that some of the people around you will stop recognizing who you are and they will also attempt to influence you. Do you think people lose friendships or leave relationships because of it? Because a lot of people are scared of that. Because if I change, what's going to happen to my world?
Mhm. That's a great question, and the answer is, I think, most definitely. So many of us, it's either the places that we grew up, or our own families oftentimes, or our childhood friends, people that, think they know you, and yes, they do. They know that version of you that you no longer are, right?
Yeah.
They'll try to pull you back to that version of you, or they'll be like, "Hey, I don't even know who you are anymore. You're changing so much. What are you doing?" Or they disagree with what your new venture is, or what new thing you're trying to do, or the new person that you're trying to be. But only you know who you are, and it's not even so much who you are; it's who you are aspiring to be. Only you know that. They don't know that. They don't see it. You know who that new you is, and that new version of you looks like, what she does, how she talks, what her aspirations are. And yes, they will try to most likely pull you back to the old version of you, and that can be hard, right? And those are, I'm not saying like you cut people off, but that's another place where you can set gentle boundaries, right? You don't have to snap at people and say, "Hey, that's just not who I am anymore." But stick to who you know you're trying to become, and then just set gentle boundaries where you need to. But yes, I couldn't agree more. I think that happens a lot.
Yeah. That's a toughie. So if we approach it, I think if we approach it with love, knowing that we still love those people, but it's like, I don't want to be my stressed self. I want to be my happy self. And
Mhm,
this is my happy self. And I can understand that you may not like it or you may find me threatening, but this is the way that I want to be in my life.
mhm,
So I guess also when we're starting to do the process
mhm.
is being with people that are in the same mindset or making sure that you're still seeing someone that can assist you along the journey. Do you
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
that's very
Your
important?
environment is a huge determinant of where you're going. So if you stay stuck in that same environment,
Mm.
you're likely to fall back in those same old patterns, which is
Mm.
why, again, if you want to be a writer, go to conferences with people that are doing similar things as you. Hang out with people that have already published books. Surround yourself with who you see yourself being, but people that have already accomplished that. Surround yourself with those people.
Yeah,
Your environment is one of
absolutely.
the determinants of your reality. So 100% couldn't agree.
Mm.
Be around people
Yeah.
that are like the version of you that you are aspiring to be.
Mm. So in the beginning, get help in terms of going to someone that can start you on your journey and surround yourselves with people. But know that you've got everything inside of you. And a lot of times we need that hand up so we can start. But you really need to come from center and from heart in order to be able to continue growing and making sure that you can rely on you rather than having to rely on an external locus of control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, my aim is for people to realize how amazing they are and so they can be in their power. But at the beginning, like anything, we need help.
Yes.
We need someone that'll say, "You're not crazy. You're fine. It's not crazy that you want to be happy and healthy. It's like it's your right to be in that state." And I think the hardest thing is just starting the journey. So,
Mhm.
what would you say to someone when they're listening to this, but also that they get the nerves and the anger and the fear? What, take stock or come see me or do some reading? What would you tell them?
Any of those places is a good place to start wherever you feel most comfortable, but I think there's no shame in working with someone to get over that hurdle. You're just gonna get there a lot faster. If you're determined to, for instance, again, be a writer, you'll get there eventually if you're determined. But if you have someone to help you, kind of walk you through what you need to do, how to publish a book, how to actually write a whole book, what things you should keep in mind in the process of it, and we're just going with that example because it's used, you're just gonna get there a lot faster. So there's no shame in asking for help. But if you're experiencing any of the symptoms of burnout or high stress or anxiety, and the thing about all of this is that the symptoms can be so varying and vague oftentimes that you may or may not realize. But if you have any of these symptoms and you're not sure what's going on with you, and you think it may be burnout, it's worth starting with just taking the quiz. And there's many different ones you can take online. I have one that I sent to my clients as well. I'm happy to share that with you today. And if you get a moderate to high score and you need help with regulating your nervous system, then work with someone to do that. You're just going to get there much faster than you may on your own. But yeah, you can absolutely do it on your own too. There's enough resources out there. You can do it on your own.
Mm,
But when you
yeah.
have someone working with you, you're probably just going to get there a lot faster. So then you can start building from that point on rather than still be here in the weeds and trying to figure out how do I calm myself down? How do I still feel snappy? So that's where I would recommend you start. If you think you may be feeling symptoms of burnout or you may be feeling it, start with the quiz, figure out where you're at. And if you're not anywhere near to severe and you think you can do it on your own, give it a go. If not, there's absolutely no sense in working with someone to start feeling better faster.
Yeah, 100%. And masking it by taking stuff will just make the process longer, I think, and can even give you some other difficulties. So sometimes it's better to just rip the band aid off if you're in a place that you can do that,
Mhm.
where you do feel safe.
Mhm.
Because I think the most important thing is that you feel safe.
100%. And even things that I mentioned when I was doing that and didn't put that label on it that I was doing, for instance, just trying to relax and taking chamomile tea and CBD. I mean, I was doing those things, but none of them were truly helping because it really was just putting a band-aid, right? That's not what nervous system healing is. That's just in taking the edge off, right? And that's exactly why rest doesn't help with burnout either, because it's a much deeper problem. It's not like, well, I'll get a good night's rest and I wake up feeling much better, all this will go away. No, it doesn't. You have to stay feeling safe in your body and you have to tell your nervous system that it's safe. And where you're at now is, and that takes at least a few weeks to, actually, honestly, a few months to really get to a place where you notice that you're feeling better. So it does take work and it takes repetition, it takes understanding your own body and your own nervous system. And then starting to do these exercises, somatic exercises, breath work, calming down your vagus nerve, being out in nature, things like this, journaling, and I'm not going into detail as to what these things are, but just labels as to what big picture what you would do. But once again, these small, boring things will compound over time, and then you'll notice a few weeks into it, few months into it, that you're feeling much calmer. You're not snappy, you're not, like, jumpy, Those are the ways that you would start noticing that I'm feeling calmer, I'm feeling better.
Mm, yeah, very true. Very true. They're all very good points. It's like notice, decide where you want to be, and put things into practice so that you can be the best version that you want to be.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am sure our listeners are going to get a lot out of this. It's also sometimes you need the nudge for the recognition so that you think, yeah, I'm not where I want to be.
Mhm.
And that they can actually start putting something into motion so that they can reach who they are. And there is so many energies that are just, there's so much upheaval happening. I mean, I was really cranky a couple of days ago, and it was because of the full moon. Energetically, it was just creating chaos. And then the time passed, and it was like, that's better.
Mhm, mhm. Exactly. Exactly, yeah. I mean, we're all energy. Like, everything around us is affecting us. We're all energy. We're all in tune with each other, with everything around us. And once again, if more people understood that, we wouldn't have half the problems that we have in the world.
That is so true. And with that note, I think we shall close it. Thank you so much, Dr. Sana, for your time and your guidance and all your, all your thoughtfulness for women and I guess men, but for me it seems to be worse from a female perspective because we just keep taking so much on. That recognition is the key. And then from recognition we can move forward.
100%. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Beatriz. Pleasure being here.
Thank you. It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Be safe.